Doylestown, PA. Food, fun, and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. The purpose of the group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Thank you. Welcome, Mike. Hi, Brandon. Welcome. Lamar, welcome. Anyone else? The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Real quick, I have one. Tomorrow there is a recovery event, picnic, cookout, meeting, speaker, the whole thing, all kinds of activities in Pottstown for Sync Recovery, 12 to 5. If anybody needs any information on that, I have the flyer. Please see me after the meeting. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them, please put any and all donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations in the back. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, please see me or any home group member before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. I do believe Ron has started a YouTube setup with all the speakers also. And next, I'd like to introduce Meredith for the preamble.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have asked Megan to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Oh, here there. Hi, I'm Megan. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. The 12 steps. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, We try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs.
The seventh tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I'd like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, workshops, etc. While that's going on, there is absolutely no smoking on anywhere in the entire planet Earth, but definitely not on church property. Please take a moment, silence all cell phones, and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact speaker group, Mike F. from the Age of Miracles is still with us group of Westfield, New Jersey. Get fired up, give a nice round of applause. Gentlemen traveled a long way. Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael, and I'm an alcoholic. It's kind of strange saying that, to be honest with you, because normally I introduce my first and last name, and I've just been introduced as told that we were going to be recording tonight. So, for the sake of being recorded, I'm just going to give you my first name. I'm going to tell you, my name is. I'm from the Age of Miracles is still with us group of Westfield, New Jersey, and I like to keep things current. I'm not a guy who's very good at this. I'm not a guy who's good at telling you the story. And one of the reasons is because at a very early time when I came in to Alcoholics Anonymous, I saw the guys with the microphone and I saw the guys with the podium, and I saw the whole deal. And if you told me back then, that you're going to get recorded and they're going to throw you up on YouTube and all this other stuff, I studied acting for a couple of years. I went off to a conservatory after that, and I tried my hand in that field. So I'm a guy who's very well aware and very well equipped of the dangers of a microphone and myself. One, it's not good for my ego. Two, I know how often I can now create a story, right? If now I've been separated from alcohol since May 1st, 2008. Thank God. But just imagine if for the past 13 years I've been rehearsing a story. For a guy like me, that's not good. And everyone's got their own way of going about these things. I'm not here to judge your situation. I'm just here to tell you mine. And so as a result of that truth, I try to keep things current. I try to tell you something about what's going on in my life, and then I let God kind of do what's next. Part of it is I ask God to give me a reading for tonight, so I'm going to possibly be reading something from the book Alcoholics Anonymous. Last night in our group, the Age of Miracles is still with us. We celebrated our first one-year anniversary. We are at 229 Calperthwaite Place in Westfield, New Jersey at Redeemer's Lutheran Church. We meet 3 days a week. We meet Thursdays from 7:30 to 8:45 for a big book study. We meet Friday nights from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m., also where we break down the big book a paragraph at a time. People with experience can share multiple times. Anybody can share multiple times. And then on Sundays, we have a beginner's meeting from 4 to 5:15, and it's also literature-based. And when I say literature-based, I mean, we have 3 speakers who speak from the book Alcoholics Anonymous. Everybody picks a paragraph, and they share on it for 10 minutes each. And it's a beginner's meeting. So we're not in the book. We're not online just yet. We are just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. We have an intergroup representative. That's myself. So we are in the first phase of becoming a part of that. But so please come out, check us out sometime if you're ever in the neighborhood. And last night we celebrated to the day our 1-year anniversary. And we are called the Age of Miracles is Still With Us group. And the reason and the motivation for that, we were a melding of a few different groups. One of them was a group called the Vision for You in Union, New Jersey, and then moved off to Springfield. And we were also part of another group called Spiritual Awakenings Group. And we formed together this new group. During the virus, churches closed, meetings got shifted around and all these other things. And the people who remained, and through some prayer, I was looking to start a meeting and talking to some guys and gals about starting a meeting on Friday night at 10 o'clock. And then next thing we knew, we had this big group. And so we took the name of our group from this reading. And it's on page 153 of the book of Vision for You. It says, "It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more." And I don't know about anybody here. I don't know anybody who's here for the first time, who's been doing this for a while. But I can tell you that when I walked in here, one of the things that I was not happy. I was suicidal. I wanted to die. I tried various ways of trying to kill myself. I was the type of guy who ate every pill that was in the cabinet, no matter what it was. Tylenol, it didn't matter. I swallowed down every pill, followed by a bottle of Bacardi 151. I also was probably a little bit too cowardly for some of those other forms of suicide that I had kind of romanticized in my mind, jumping into a train or off of a building or things of that nature. So I knew that if I put a lot of salt on my food, that eventually I'd get high blood pressure and I would die. I'd have a heart attack and I would die. And so I would go out. It didn't matter what the story was. It doesn't matter what the scenario was. I was living with a woman. We were together for 4.5, 5 years. We helped raise this little boy for about 5 years during this time. He was a 4.5-year-old, and by the time I'm walking in here, this little kid's 10, and he got the opportunity to see this guy, whatever I was for him at that time. At the time I thought I was dreaming up I was a role model, but if I was a role model, I was a horrible one. I'm putting salt like a cloud of white is on top of all of my food. Right? I mean, I like salt. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy some salt and stuff like that. I'll probably over salt my soups and sauces and stuff like that. But I would particularly put a bunch of salt on my food just so I could die. I wanted out. I smoked cigarettes, so I would smoke up to 2 packs a day, just knowing that eventually I'd get cancer and I would die. I knew alcohol was bad for me. I was already, going into throwing up blood as a result of my drinking, and I was having panic attacks and amongst other things. So happy was not a word that I identified with when I came in here. Useful, respected. Now, maybe there was a couple guys at the Homedale Motor Inn who had a little bit of respect for the fact that they knew I was there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then they knew that I was also there at 2 o'clock in the morning that same day, and that they, knew that I probably maybe were proud that I was able to gather up some more booze to take over to the Motor Inn to go carry on with some other activities throughout the rest of the night. So maybe I had some respect, because I remember one point in time I had this badge of honor by being the first guy in my group to bang out 21 shots of Jägermeister without throwing up, and that was a badge, and I thought that was like a trophy, and that trophy was a Jägermeister glass that came with the set. I remember this was like a big deal, and everyone was trying to, for years after, trying to take the trophy and all this other stuff. So maybe I had some respect for my fellow drinkers, for my fellow abusers and things of that nature, because of my ability to stand up longer than anybody else. And I used to think that that's what made me an alcoholic. I used to wear that as a badge. I used to wear it as a badge, that the fact that, I'm the guy who's still awake at 11 o'clock in the morning. You guys that are up and crashed out, maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. But 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm still going. I'm figuring, wait for some of these guys to get up because they got some cash. Let's go grab something to eat, and then let's keep doing it some more. And I used to think that I was an alcoholic, and I was really proud of that, because I thought that I could drink more than anybody else. But outside of that, my sister-in-law, when I made amends to her, and I knew it in many respects, that this was the case, but I heard it from her mouth. I'm a big Yankee fan. I go to 25 baseball games a year. And don't worry, I do have the Red Sox on my 4-step inventory multiple times. Red Sox Nation, all that stuff. That stuff was killing me. Maybe we'll get to some of that. But the truth is, I used to go to 25 ball games a year, and all I wanted to do was to take my godson Sean to Yankee games, you know. But I couldn't. Tracy wouldn't let me be in the car with her. I wouldn't be allowed to drive with my 2 nephews or my niece. So the idea of being a respected member of the family, being somebody that was a go-to guy in the family, was not the case. I was recently told, not too long ago, my cousin's putting up a shed and did other things, and he was letting me know, like, he didn't even think that I was good enough to be the guy who could hold up, the roof while they nailed the shed together, or whatever the heck that is. A feeling of uselessness is exactly the way I felt. Happy and respected. I mean, forget about, maybe other people did respect me, but I couldn't respect myself. I was suicidal. I was ridiculously violent. I got off on rage and anger. And I'm not the type of guy who would say, I've heard this said before recently, the Pledge of Allegiance of every alcoholic is, that's it, I'm not going to do it ever again. That's my last night. Tomorrow's, I'm not going to do this anymore. I promise I'm not going to quit drinking or anything like that. I never said that. I never said that. Now, I did try to do things where I would try to control. I would do things that would try to, like, okay, this substance and this liquid and these things don't mix. This isn't working out right for me. When I do that, somebody shows up with blood on their teeth. Right? I black out and other things of that nature. So I've done things to try to manage or control it, but I never said I was never going to stop drinking. There were some other things that I said is probably a good idea that I should stop doing. And I said to myself, when I get married, when I have a kid, when I get married, when I have a kid, when I have a house, I'll cool it, right? I'll chill out. That other stuff will get put aside when I settle down, right? But, as my sponsor had pointed out to me when I had to, discuss some things with him in the first step, when it talks about mental obsession, about how somehow, someday, right, we can control and enjoy our drinking, right? My idea, my dream, my vision, my delusion is that when I get married. And he would say to me, that's a lie, Michael. He says, are you living in a condo right now? Yeah, I am living in a condo right now. Are you in a relationship with somebody who you're looking to get married to? And I said, yeah, I am. And does that person have a child? Yeah, that person has a child. Is that child, like, you want to raise that as your own son and everything like that? Yeah. He goes, Mike, you got everything that you want, and you still can't stop. And you're still not even doing anything about that. So, respected, happy, and useful, that wasn't me. Something else that came up from the meeting last night. Bill in his story, he says in his story, I discovered liquor. Does everybody remember when they discovered liquor? Okay? Columbus discovers America. It's a big event, right? It's a huge thing, right? Thomas Edison discovers, the light bulb or whatever it might be, right? Ben Franklin, electricity, all these other types of things. It's a huge discovery. It's a moment in life. The world changes. From this day on, everything is completely different, right? It's not like, in my story, right? I was 14 years old, and I was at my brother's wedding, and I had a drink. No. At my brother's wedding, when I was 14 years old, I discovered liquor. And I think I might have had some sort of contact with booze before that. I'm not even sure if I was exactly 14. But I can tell you a little bit about what that was like. We had a nice-sized family. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in Middletown, New Jersey. When we moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey when I was 6 years old, I feel like I could really identify with my spiritual sickness. When I moved, from Brooklyn to Middletown, I was wearing dungarees and a sweatshirt. Right? And when I mean a sweatshirt, I'm not talking about a Nike hoodie. I'm not talking about an Adidas shirt or anything like that. Not even a Yankee shirt. I had a plain, regular sweatshirt and something that was called dungarees in those days. And I remember all the kids, they had jeans and Levi's and, kids would have those little bragging dragon, little things on their shirts, right? The little alligators, right? With little collars and the striped shirts that go this way, right? I remember Scott from the other block. He had his hair cut with a part up the middle. And I remember how badly I wanted to have the part up the middle. My father would never let me, cut my own hair or do my own hair the way I wanted or anything like that. But I just remember, I felt like at the age of 6, sitting down for snack, that I was from another planet, right? At snack time, I had the red apple, right? Scott, he had the roll-up, James, he had the roll-ups, those fruit roll-up things, right? And Scott, he had a yogurt-covered granola bar. And I remember thinking, oh my God, your mom loves you so much. You get the yogurt-covered granola bar. If I ever saw a granola bar, it was the hard granola bar, the stuff that makes, marks in your teeth and everything like that. Other kids who had fruit, they had it all cut up and sliced and in little baggies and whatever. I got the red apple that sat on the bottom of the refrigerator, and it was just here. And I just remember feeling I can't get, and I never forget, Scott came up to me and he traded his snack with me. And I remember thinking, dude, what a dipstick this kid is. Why would you trade the yogurt-covered granola bar for this stupid apple? I never felt right. And by the time my brothers and our family, because a lot of my family was still in Brooklyn at the time, all my weekends, all my summers, were either Brooklyn was at our house or I was at Brooklyn. And Christmas would be everybody sitting down at the big table for Christmas, and me and my developmentally disabled cousin were in the other room sitting at a little table next to the washer and dryer. And I remember feeling like I'm not even a part of my own family's Christmas. I'm not even part of holidays or these other things. My brother's 10 years older than me, and everybody from my, whatever you want to call it, generation on that side of the family, they're all 10 years older or older. And I remember my whole life wanting to be at the big kids table. I just wanted to be with the other guys. And so now it's my brother's wedding, and I resent him for not inviting me to the bachelor party. I resent him for not considering me as the best man. Now, I'm ignoring the fact that I had one of the readings. I'm ignoring the fact that I was the guy right next to, the best man. And not that I even have a really concept of what those things mean. It's not like I studied weddings my whole life. But for whatever reason, I remember feeling like I'm not the best man. And I'm not, this guy's brother. And I remember feeling like, he doesn't think of me in this particular way to try to get me into his wedding party. Even though I'm in his wedding party, even though I have one of a special reading and all these other things, I feel like I'm not right. And I'm with this girl, Pam, who's this beautiful girl from school. This beautiful girl from junior high school. And she's, blonde hair, really popular. She had boyfriends before. And I remember thinking that she doesn't mean it when she says she thinks I'm funny. She doesn't mean it when she says I'm good looking. She doesn't mean it when she says, I like the way you kiss. She doesn't mean it when she says I'm done with that guy, Charlie. Right? She doesn't mean that. Right? Really, what she's doing is Charlie and her got into a thing. She's only with me so that she can get Charlie pissed off and she can get back at him. And Charlie's 2 years younger than me, and I'm afraid that he's going to come beat me up. My whole life is like soundtracks. I don't know if that makes sense to any of you guys, but for me, my mind is always working like a soundtrack for my life. I used to listen to the Beatles all the time growing up, and I would have a Beatles song for every part of my life. I can tell you one part, when I walk in here, the song is, I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved. Man, that was mean. At 14 years old, this was the soundtrack that I thought all of you were singing and thinking and believing while I'm hanging out, walking down the hallways with Pam. Go like this. Is she really going out with him? Is she really gonna take him home tonight? Is she really going out with him? 'Cause if my eyes don't deceive me, there's something going on around here. I used to think that every girl that I was with, that everyone was like, how's this ugly loser dirtbag getting with this girl? And I used to think that she would be thinking the same thing. And I come to my brother's wedding. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, the limos show up, and my brother's got 5 bottles of booze in the limo. He's got a bottle of Johnny Walker Black, he's got peppermint schnapps, he's got vodka, he's got gin, he's got some mixers, which I don't even know what the heck they are. And by the time we get to the church, me and my cousin Brian are already banging out peach schnapps and Johnny Walker. We go through the wedding, the ceremony, and my face is flushed, I'm red, I'm hot, I'm feeling good, I'm really relaxed and calm. Brian, I can tell, is starting to feel the effects of what was going on with him. And now we go to a really nice place, a nice park, and we've taken a bunch of pictures. And because I wasn't one of those top 4 stars of the show, right? I'm background actor on this movie set, and so I'm sitting in the limo and I'm pounding out some more. By the time we get to the cocktail party, where my brother's able to finally just sit back and relax and chill out and start to take a couple of hits for himself and enjoy his wedding and his what do they call it, the party that takes place after. The 2 bottles are gone, and I don't even know how much of the others are hit into it. But I do remember this: my brother being pissed off that the Johnny Walker, his wife drinks the schnapps, right? And I remember him being really aggravated that it's gone. It's an open bar. I'm the groom's younger brother, and so I knew 2 things, right? I knew rum and Coke, and I knew vodka and grapefruit juice, right? My cousin Brian, who I looked up to and I wanted to be like him when I grew up, drank vodka and grapefruit juice. And I also knew blackberry brandy was a thing, and that was something I started off with soon after that. But then I would always just, so open bar, 14-year-old kid, rum and Cokes, and vodka and grapefruit. Rum and Coke, vodka and grapefruit. Rum and Coke, vodka and grapefruit. And I remember suddenly, by the time this thing gets going, the music's going, the jukebox is on, band's playing, whatever the heck's going on, and suddenly, this girl that I think is way out of my league, suddenly I think, I can do better than her. Suddenly, I'm kind of cool. I'm like Fonzie. Right? I got my stuff together. All of a sudden, I got it going. I got all the moves on the dance floor. I feel, I feel like I've never felt ever before in my life. I feel like I'm put together. I'm cool. I'm Clint Eastwood. I'm Fonzie, and I can do better than Pam. And suddenly, I can kick that kid Charlie's butt. Suddenly, now I'm going to watch out for this guy. He's going to watch out for me. I'm going to kill him. That's what alcohol had done for me. I discovered liquor. I never forget that discovery of what it did for me. I'm not the guy who drank every weekend at the weekend parties. I made fun of all of those kids. I called them losers. I called them dirtbags. I was that type of guy. I didn't do drugs in high school or any of that stuff. Those kids were losers. Those kids were dirtbags, and those, all this other stuff. Didn't like the popular kids. Didn't like none of that. I was the type of kid that I'd raise my hand, I'd say, I'd like to go to the bathroom. I was top 20% of the class, an underachiever for sure. And I'd get a pass to go to the bathroom, and in my locker, all through high school, I have a bottle of blackberry brandy. And I go to my locker and I take a hit. I go to my locker and I take a hit. I go to my locker and take a hit. Sometimes I'd have some special gatherings with some whiskey, across the street with one of the older kids. Maybe I definitely got suspended from school for drinking when we would go to New York City to sing with Maris Choir at St. Patrick's Cathedral. I remember getting kicked out of school and things of that nature. But I remember what booze did for me, and what it did for me was I was at the big kids' table. Now, by the time I walk in 2008, I'm the type of guy who's got a bottle of rum, which, by the way, right? I mean, I told you that my first drinks at that wedding was rum, right? But I didn't like rum. In fact, all my time at Home Del Motor Inn and every other place, I always made fun of rummies, right? The guy with the red nose, couple of teeth in his head. I used to make fun of those guys. Oh, look at this rummy, look at this rummy, look at this rummy. Meaning I was probably talking to people like me, future people like me, alcoholics. And so I would, generally speaking, I stood away from that, But by the time I come in here, I'm drinking Bacardi Gold straight from the bottle. I got a bottle in my mattress. I got a bottle under the bed. I got a bottle in the sock drawer. I got a bottle in her hamper. I got a bottle in the little boy's hamper. I got a bottle next to the washer and dryer. I got a bottle in the little closet outside where you step outside in the condo, the little, kind of like garage for condo people. I got a bottle in there. I'm driving around with a cooler in my car, right? Usually with warm water, a couple of warm beers banging around, usually a bottle, and maybe some mixers, maybe a soda, maybe a ginger ale or something like that. But generally speaking, I had a cooler, and if it was a good day, it was loaded up and it had ice. But I always had a cooler. I always had booze in my car. At my parents' house, I had a bottle under the bed. I had a bottle in the closet, and multiple bottles in the closet. And I would have a shoebox. And in that shoebox, I had a lot of other cool stuff, that would affect my sobriety. At my buddy Lars's place, I'd have bottles situated at Lars's house. And I always had stuff, if I went to anybody else's house, there was always stuff there too. That was the booze that you didn't know about. Then I still had the booze that was okay to know about, okay? So, I had all that booze while I'm living with the girl at her place, but I still had the top of the refrigerator booze, right? The bottle of Absolute, all the things to make chocolate martinis in case somebody came over and stupid things like that, right? Not that I was a chocolate martini guy, but I would try to pretend, oh, Shane and Kelly are going to come over, let's make some chocolate martinis, and I would try to show my hand, I got vanilla vodka and all these other things. We had a wine rack and everything else. So I had the booze that was for, that everyone could know about, the stuff that I was able to let you see me drink from on a regular basis, and then I had the lights are out, you're going to bed, somebody's marking how much is in there, your parents want to know what's in their liquor cabinet and stuff like that. Then I had the booze that was mine. I always had the stuff that was just for me. And God forbid I woke up in the middle of the night to go, and I would always go to bed with a bottle, with either a can of, or a bottle of beer, but generally speaking, I would sit at my bedside with a mixed cocktail. And even if I fell asleep on the couch hours after she would go to bed, I would still make a brand new cocktail, walk into bed, and put it next to my bed. And just in case I had to go up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I couldn't sit from that uncomfortability of time. And in order for me to go to work, I'd have to have a drink, I'd have to smoke something, or I'd have to inhale something, or get involved with some other kind of personal stuff, just to get out the door to go drive an hour late to work. Filled with self-hatred, filled with resentment, filled with rage, filled with fear. That 14-year-old kid who didn't feel comfortable with that girl took that simpling, that song was in every relationship that I ever had the rest of my life for the next 20-something years. And so it says, how can these people, guys like me, rise out of such misery, bad repute, bad reputation, and hopelessness? I was mentioning to a friend, I was in a situation where, we were feeling really good, but we had some feeling that maybe there were some people outside trying to kill us on my parents' place. My parents went away for a month or so, and we thought, in 3 o'clock in the afternoon that someone was outside killing us, so we called 911. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, we saw shadows on the lawn and other things like that. We thought people, were out to get us and kill us then too. So we called 911 a second time. And I had to, I've been arrested multiple times. I've been brought up on felonious charges, and 3 DWI arrests, and I had managed to get my father's good name brought into every police blotter in Monmouth County, New Jersey. And on this, double 911 call day, which is a serious offense in case anyone's ever, heard or aware of these types of things. It's a super serious offense, like an immediate arrest and everything like that. I happen to have at least K9 cars showing up, if Middletown is getting a call at 3 o'clock in the morning as their second 911 call, this is what every Middletown cop, went to work for, their whole life is this type of deal. So every one of them at 3 o'clock in the morning shows up to the house. I got K9s. I see cop cars going into the with their lights going into the backyard of my place, backyard of the neighbor's house. Neighbor's lights are now going on. Why are the cop cars all going? Whatever. They lock me. They lock her. They lock my parents' dog, and they lock the little boy all into a vehicle. We're trying to have this kind of conversation about what we're doing there and what's going to be said next after this situation, because what's said next is super important. I don't know if you guys are kind of catching on to that, or if you've been in similar situations, but what's going to be said next is super important. I'm trying to have this conversation in front of a little boy at 3 o'clock in the morning who also believes there's somebody outside trying to kill him, because if you see people outside and that they're trying to kill you, eventually you're like, what about there, over there? He's like, I see them too. And next thing you know, we're locked in this little car, and people, cop after cop after cop after cop after cop with guns like this. Don't go right into my parents' house. One light on, another light on, another light on. I'm like, they found that stuff. Hopefully they didn't pull up the drawer in that room. Oh my gosh, I hope they didn't climb on top of the library in this room and just another light, another light, another light, another light, another light. And I'd love to tell you that was the last day that I stopped drinking. But what happened was, because she was the one who actually made the 911 calls, that was the day it was decided that she needed to stop. I continued going along on this journey for another couple of years. So bad reputation, for sure. I was afraid to drive around in Homedale, New Jersey. Those guys got me all the time. I would purposely drive like a 25-minute trip to go 2 miles or less to go to the Italian ice place in Hazlitt. Right? I had because I was so afraid of the Homedale cops. I mean, it's just a matter. They saw the car, they saw the license plate, everybody knew, pull me over. I didn't have a good reputation in that respect. Not to mention, I would imagine this, to anybody who had been in a relationship with me prior to that point in time, not a good reputation with any of them either. How can somebody get out of this misery, bad repute, and hopelessness? Well, the practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, they can happen with you. Should you wish them above all else and be willing to make use of our experiences, we are sure that they will come. Well, I don't know. When I was coming around to Monmouth County AA at the time, I was told, folding chair is your God, and, doorknobs as your God, and people were talking about, just don't drink no matter what. You just don't drink no matter what. I heard guys tell me it was okay to take those pain pills. That's a whole other fellowship. You don't need to worry about that. The important thing is you're not drinking. This guy's telling me it's okay to take pain pills. I have another guy telling me it's okay to smoke marijuana. And then the guys who are always saying, don't drink no matter what. All you got to do is choose not to drink today, and don't drink no matter what. Right? Even if your ass falls off, he would say. Even if your ass falls off, he would tell you, don't drink no matter what. Even if your ass falls off. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's drinking, not drinking. Even if his ass falls off, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? And it's also ridiculous to me that I'm going to go and turn around and go make a decision to turn my life and will over to the care of a folding chair. You guys are out of your mind. There's no way I'm doing any of this stuff. You guys are totally nuts. I'm going to ask a doorknob to totally remove my defects of character and share them with the doorknob and some other guy, all the sick stuff that's going on in my mind. You guys are totally nuts, and I'm doing this for 2 or 3 months. Now, this is 60 days without a drink in me, okay? Right? I'm not the guy who puts down a drink and suddenly I'm a nice guy. Suddenly I'm a gentleman. Suddenly I got my stuff together. Suddenly I'm hireable. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that when I put a drink down, I'm worse. The rage is worse. All the thoughts going on in my head is worse. I'm driving around in the car. I'm having a conversation with this girlfriend over here. I'm having a conversation, an argument with my ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago over here. I'm yelling at the boss over here. I'm driving along in the car all by myself, and I can't stop all the arguments and all the fights with people who aren't even in the room. and I hate myself. I want to die. I'm starting to think about thoughts about the possibility of running my car into that 18-wheeler coming my way. And I'm talking about without a drink in me. I'm talking about what it's like without a drink inside me. I'm not that guy. And I would venture to guess that if you put down the drink and you put down the substance and you put the stuff that's killing you down, and your life suddenly gets better without doing a single thing about it, you might not have the problem that some of these people talk about in here. And I highly recommend you going through the identification process of the first 63 pages to find out what a real alcoholic is, if you belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. And don't just take this damn talk for it, because it's totally worthless in that respect. You need to have your own experience with those pages with the guy who's had that experience to find out if that is you. And what was starting to happen was, 2 months without a drink in me. I'm driving down this road. It's called Middletown Lincroft Road. And I'm driving, I'm so selfish, right? My girlfriend wants me to, I think, take her to work or something like that. But I don't want to move because I'm living in my car too. I got all this insane stuff. I refuse to take the stuff off of the passenger seat. So I just shove a whole bunch of things over in the back seat so she could sit behind me. And I'm taking cigarette butts. Now, mind you, I'm telling you, without a drink in me. I'm driving around Middletown Lincroft Road, and one of these roads is like this. It's a really windy road. It's like 15 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. It's a real windy, dangerous road. And I'm taking cigarettes. I'm flicking them in the back on her. I'm taking cigarettes. I'm flicking them at her. And then she says, oh my gosh, you know, the back of the car is on fire. So then I'm taking bottles of water and I'm throwing it like this at her, like this, and throwing water on her. She's got her door open, and I'm driving 50 and 60 miles an hour like this, with every intention of trying to eject her from the vehicle. She's taking my car. She's taking my house key. She's taking my wallet. She's throwing things out the window, and I'm just like, "You go with it, babe." And this is me without a drink in me. I'm totally nuts, and I'm totally uncomfortable. And guess what? You know what? It would have been probably better if I drank no matter what. If that young lady who had asked the question, would it be better if Finley put may have distracted from the record, but if Michael put you through this situation, or he had a drink today instead done his normal thing on the couch, I bet you she would probably say it would have been better if he had a drink no matter what in that particular situation. And what winds up happening is I start to go to meetings, right? And I start to, they talk about here about making use of people's experiences, right? I remember this guy standing at a podium, this guy, phenomenal guy, but he wasn't, here I am, I got 3 months, without a drink in me. I'm sitting in the chair, and this guy isn't talking about how much he drank. He isn't telling me things about, he spilled more than I ever drank in my life. He's not talking about the needles and the arrests and that, he's scraping the skull off of a bumper and he doesn't know, and he's not talking about all the crazy blackouts for like 45 minutes. This guy's talking about why I feel uncomfortable sitting in the chair. Why when I'm driving around in the car without a drink in me, I have to turn the volume up just to close all the voices down in my head. How that when I'm sitting down, I'm watching the Yankees game, there's a man on second and third, they're talking about a trade and all these other things. I'm going inside the bathroom, having an argument with the guy in the mirror. Sometimes the guy in the mirror is me, sometimes it's the boss, sometimes it's the girlfriend. And at the end of the game, the Yankees win, let's say 3-2, and I don't even know how the hell that happened. And I could be sitting on my couch staring at that TV the whole damn time without a drink in me. He talked about the uncomfortability of being sober. And I can tell you that I didn't want to stop drinking. What I wanted was the voices in my head to go away. What I wanted was to know that, why am I like this without a drink in me? How come I can't handle life? How come I can't handle a relationship? How come I can't just responsibly take a 10-year-old to a Yankees game? I wanted to know why I'm like this, because it didn't make sense to me. And in fact, at that point in time, I started praying and asking God, please make me an alcoholic. Because I can't, if this isn't so, if I start going through this identification process, and if I'm not an alcoholic, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, nothing in my life can possibly make sense. But this guy, he wasn't talking about those things. He was a man of honor. He was a man of dignity. He was a man of respect. I knew that when that guy left the podium, he wasn't doing a rehearsed sketch. I knew that when that guy went home, he treated his wife with love and care and respect. He wasn't going home kicking the dog. He wasn't cheating on his taxes. He didn't have an extra love affair going on. He didn't have other problems, secrets that he wasn't talking about inside of AA. This was a guy that I knew was a changed man as a result of this process. And what was my situation is that I was willing to do the things that were asked of me through his experience so that I could have what he had. And he started me on the process of the identification process of the first 63 pages, right? And one of those things we just kind of really talked about, right? Mike, leaving aside the drink question, how you doing with life? Not too good, Pete. When you put the booze in your system, do you find yourself in a situation that you want more no matter what? Absolutely, Pete. You know how many times I said I'm just going to have one, and then I'm going to be home for dinner. I'm going to have one during happy hour, and I'm coming home. Next thing I know, I tell her I'm going to come home. I'm going to be there, babe, at 6 o'clock. We're going to have dinner. I'm going to be there. I got out of work. I'm going to happy hour. I'm just going to have one, and then I'm going to meet you for dinner. Next thing I know, it's Easter morning. It's days later. Actually, I'm coming to, and I asked the guy what time it is. He says, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. Happy Easter. Right? I've been drinking and doing stuff and playing cards and doing things with these guys all night long. It wasn't like I was passed out in their chair. I come to in this situation, they're telling me it's Easter morning. Now I know that the 10-year-old, the 7-year-old, and the 8-year-old are all waiting by my parents' house, waiting to do an Easter egg hunt with me. I can't pull it together. And I meant it, that I'm going to be home at 6 o'clock. I meant that. So I understood that. I related to this idea of that when I put it in my system, I want more, and I don't have much control over how much I take when that happens. And I don't know if you guys identify, but I definitely identify with this spiritual malady of being restless, irritable, and discontent with the drink, eventually when the drink stopped working, and without. So we started along the next process, right? Coming to believe in a power greater than myself that can return me to sanity. The key point for me did I believe that I was nuts? And I totally believed I was nuts. Nothing makes sense to me. I knew I wasn't right. In fact, I wished that there was a God that was going to fix this situation. Because there was nothing, I couldn't do it. Like I told you guys before, I wasn't the guy with that Pledge of Allegiance. I was the guy who said, I'm not going to treat her like that anymore. I'm never going to raise my hands to her again. I'm never going to talk to my mother that way again. I'm not going to destroy another Christmas like that again. But I never said I'm not going to drink. And with or without a drink, I couldn't stop those behaviors. I couldn't stop the anger. I couldn't stop the violence. I couldn't stop the fear. I couldn't stop the self-hatred without a drink or with one. Right? I understood and I identified with this idea of insanity. I made a decision to turn my life over to the rest of this process, right? Which was doing steps 4 through 9 and doing 10, 11, and 12. My sponsor taught me things about prayer. He taught me things about meditation. He asked me to do some assignments in regard to what I might like in a relationship with this power. And then he took me through a 4-step process. And yes, on my inventory, I wrote about everything. I wrote about the Red Sox. I wrote about the Eagles. I wrote about the Knicks. I wrote about the Yankees. I wrote about the Giants. I wrote about the teams I like, the teams I don't like. I wrote down every single fear. I had 75, at least, fears. Right? Fear of being in a loveless marriage, fear of being in a sexless marriage, fear of being cheated on again. I've been cheated on multiple times. Fear that I'm going to turn out like my mother. Fear I'm going to turn out like my father. Fear I'm going to marry my mother. Fear I'm going to marry my father. Fear of my mother dying. Fear of my father dying. Fear of never amounting to anything, over and over and over again, just fear, all boiled down to, which I eventually learned, fear of being alone, fear of what others think of me, runs my whole life, with a little hint of fear of the unknown, not sure what's happening next, fear of going to hell, in that respect, fear of not knowing, the unknown. Those were the 3, boil me down into those 3 things, and usually the 2 that run my life, fear of being alone, fear of what others think of me. You can put 20 different names to each of them, but that's the deal. And I wrote down all of the sex stuff. I wrote down not just about, people that I had those types of relationships with. I also talked about the stuff that happened when I was 6. I also talked about the stuff that happened with my, with this one or that one on the couch at 9 and this one on the couch at 11. I also talked about the things that happened, with some family members and other stuff. talked about all of it. And not only were those people on my list, but I also wrote down anybody that I was intimate with. Right? Because I learned some things. That there were certain aspects of my 6th grade relationship and my 5th grade relationship where I didn't have any sex. But I learned some stuff about my character. I learned about the fears. I learned about the habits that were being created at that time in my life. And I spilled it. I spilled it. Put it all out there. It said in there, you don't want to sneak anything through the archway. And for me, if this thing was going to work, I told them everything. I told them about stealing batteries when I was 6. I told them about the pornography. I told them about the fetish stuff and all the other stuff, and it all came through me, came through the archway. Everything that I was fully aware of, I walked through it. And in step 6 and 7, he would say to me, Michael, you weren't born angry. You weren't born lustful. You weren't born not trusting of women. You weren't born with a negative self-image. You weren't born with a negative sex image. He said, what happened is that when you were born whole and complete by this loving and caring Creator. He said, Michael, you're not missing anything. Everything is right there already. I don't want you going around asking God to remove this and asking God to remove this and asking God to remove this. He goes, I want you to move forward for the rest of your life, starting to thank God. Thank God for a positive self-image. Thank you, God, for purity. Thank you, God, for purity of mind. Thank you, God, for purity of tongue. Thank you, God, for purity of body. Thank you, God, for purity of soul. Thank you, God, for positive self-image. Thank you, God, for positive sex image. Thank you, God, for love. Thank you, God, for peace. Thank you, God, for making me trusting of women. Thank you, God, for making me a good man. Thank you, God, for making me a handsome man. Thank you, God, for my talents. Sometimes I have to do that at 13 years sober. Sometimes I have to thank God for the power to forgive my mother. Sometimes I have to thank God for the power to forgive my boss. Sometimes I have to thank God for the power to forgive the people that I'm with and around all the time. But I thank God for the things that are already there, because I wasn't born missing things. I was under this delusion that I was missing a whole lot. He let me know that everything was already there. There was some stuff blocking the way. This process was about that. Now, I then started to make some amends. And I made amends to my folks, my family, my mom, my dad. But because I was so prejudiced, because I perpetuated every stereotype throughout my entire life, from the age of 5, it didn't matter, Polish, Jewish, it didn't matter. Race, creed, color, religion, sexual preference, identity, all of that stuff. I had perpetuated every stereotype that was out there about those things, and I was fully aware of them when it came time to make my list. So at one point in time, I make amends to the LBGT community. And I go to this place in New York City, and I go sit down, because this is where the Spirit eventually led me after praying on this for some time. Leads me to this place in the LBGT center. And I tell them, I did this, I did that, I did this. And I said, not only did I do this, but to the people that I specifically did these things to, I made amends to those people as well. But I do feel that as a member, of this planet here, I also amends to, whatever. And these happen to be a bunch of battered, abused people of that community. And they said stuff to me like, now, I'd just broken up with a girl. I thought this was the one. She was it. I thought it was ordained by God. When we would talk on the phone, I heard the harps play. I heard everything. This was it. I knew God. There was times when I would say her name, like lights would light up. Like I'm going to get married to this girl. My mother kind of liked her, which was like an anomaly. But she leaves me. She flat leaves me on my birthday. And what winds up happening is I'm crying, I'm weeping, I'm crying, I'm weeping, I'm crying, I'm weeping. And I'm like, my sponsor, baby, I got to do this. And I just get a text message back, make amends. And I'm driving to that center. Crying, weeping. In fact, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pull it together just to make this amends. And I'm sitting down with these folks. And they said, Michael, you've forgiven members of the community for some of the things that they have done to you. But Michael, have you forgiven yourself? He says, Michael, you're coming out here with a loving attitude and a loving way, and we're sure that over the past bunch of years, you've been a loving member of this community already by the way, the things that you've been doing and the things that you've been passing off into the community. But they said, Michael, do you love yourself? And then there's another one. I mean, like people who are drooling because of the medication and the stuff that they're taking. They're like, Michael, do you love yourself? Do you love yourself? Well, do you love yourself? Have you forgiven yourself? And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Right? Like I'm going here to, I'm thinking I'm here, I'm going to fix you guys. And here all of a sudden I've given some considerations for my own self, right? Because now I have to go out and I have to ask, people, well, how do you love yourself, right? Oh, yeah, sure, I know how to love myself, nice guy, whatever like that. But in reality, I wound up talking to a woman with 20 years, and she says, Michael, the same patience, love, and tolerance that you give to your sponsees, the same patience, love, and tolerance that you give to your family and members of the community and things of that nature. Yeah, well, Michael, you need to give the same patience, love, and tolerance to yourself. And then I started this journey of getting to really understand and know and love myself and be comfortable with and who I am in a way that I never had begun before. And that came through making amends. And I could go through amends stories at length. When something crops up, first of all, one of the greatest words in that 10th step is I watch, right? I watch for resentment. I watch for dishonesty. I watch for selfishness. And you want to know why? Because I do a nightly review every night. And I ask myself where I'm resentful, where I'm selfish, where I'm dishonest. Well, if you listen to my inventory 7 days in a row, you already know that on the 8th day, I'm going to resent my mother, I'm going to hate the guy at work, and I'm going to be pissed off at the people on the road, and people riding the subway, and the girl who does this on the subway, and all this other stuff, right? You already know, because I've written inventory 7 days a week. So now, I forget about it. I'm not waiting for those people. Now I'm watching. And now in my morning review, and the 24 hours ahead, I'm imagining, and I'm sitting with God, and I'm trying to imagine myself show up differently. I go downstairs. My mom's one of the most difficult relationships in my life. I go downstairs every day for the next 13 years. How you doing, Mom? I love you. How's it going, Mom? How you doing today? And it started off when, 13 years ago in 2008, pulling one of those things on your mother, she's pushing me away. Now I got my mother holding me. Today I'm sitting with my mother and we're online for confession. Right? Because I'm a messed up kid, and I'm still not a really good son sometimes. And we're online for confession. My mother turns to me and says, I love you. That woman who gave me the red apple, who eventually made me make my own lunches at like 9 years old and doing his own laundry and all this other stuff. Now, before I go to work, there was a point in time I was making like hot water and lemon with honey, to go. And it started off when I started doing this thing. My mother would be like, oh, can I have some? Oh, can I have some? And I'm like, oh, great. Just make me another 5 minutes late for work. Sure, of course, Mom. I'll make you. Now, all of a sudden, my mom's knocking on the door. She's opening it up. And my mom is not Miss Quiet in the morning. She's the, get up! It's 9 o'clock! You're late! All that. That's my mom's alarm clock. Now it's knock, knock, knock. Here you go. Hey, the honey and water and lemons on the counter for you. My mom's making coffee before I leave the house. I have a totally different relationship with my mother. It's not the greatest, it's not the best, but as a result of me showing up and taking those actions, imagining myself show up differently in the 24 hours ahead, I have a different situation with my mom. Not to mention, too, in my relationships, I had a relationship with a woman not too long ago, and one of the things that she sent a text to me, it was like a couple years ago, Yankees were in the playoffs, and she goes, hey, Michael, congratulations on the Yankees' victory last night. At this point in time, we were at least gone at least a year or more, right, separated. And she says, Michael, I just want you to know that you are the standard that I hold all future suitors to. Thank you for setting such a high bar. My girlfriend today, when I talked to her, she says, you're one of the sweetest guys I've ever dated. My greatest joy in my days today, because I'm sick, my mind will still tell me things like jump in front of that train. It doesn't tell me to take a drink. It doesn't tell me to go meet the guy at the corner. It doesn't tell me, see what you can find in the city. Instead, what it tells me is to go jump in front of a train, right? Because my sponsor told me 13 years ago, and it's still true today, this disease wants you dead. It'll settle for you drunk. It'll settle for you lit up. And The greatest gift of my day is if I'm working 6 days a week. Right now, I'm not that guy working 6 days a week. I have the opportunity to not. But when I'm working 6 days a week, I have a sponsee coming over at 10 o'clock in the morning. I have another one coming over at 12:30 in the afternoon. I have another one coming over at 3. I have another one coming over at 4. I have another one coming over at 8. And then they leave at 10. And every Saturday, I don't think about myself. And that's a result of being able to carry this message to other alcoholics. And I also sponsor drug addicts, and I also sponsor sex addicts and people who are sexaholics as well, only because I have experience with those fellowships as well and those illnesses. It says the age of miracles is still with us. That's the name of our group, and that's from this reading. Our own recovery proves that. I couldn't do this on my own. And it wasn't just because of your helping hand and your smiles. It's because of this recovery process that's laid out in this book. Our hope is that when this chip of a book is launched on the world tide of alcoholism, defeated drinkers will seize upon it and follow its suggestions. Many, we are sure, will rise to their feet and march again. They will approach other sick ones, and fellowships of Alcoholics Anonymous may spring up in each city, hamlet, and havens for those who must find a way out. And if anybody's sitting here today, I wish Alcoholics Anonymous was called The Way Out. But if anyone here is looking for a way out of any of those things that may relate to those things, I can tell you, you found it here. Talk to some of those people that raised a hand and go have an experience. Thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor. And I trust you.